Welcome back for another episode of Pluto Unveiled. Last time we laid the groundwork for the world of Pluto and hinted at the conflicts within the series. This time we'll be detailing and explaining the robots deemed as weapons of mass destruction, which you may be surprised to learn number a bit higher than 7. So settle in, get yourself a snack, and leave a quick like on the video. In Pluto, several robots were designated robots of mass destruction, labeled this because of their ability to destabilize the world's power structures. Now, the reasons to be designated as such weren't purely for their danger, but the potential threat that an advanced non-human mind could do, beginning with Mont Blanc, voiced by Keith Farley. While not a lot is known about Mont Blanc, he was a peace-loving robot beloved worldwide for his conservation efforts and humanitarian aid. Despite his life as a peace symbol, Mont Blanc served with Brando and Hercules in the same unit during the 39th Central Asian War. Here, we do get a nod of sort to Mont Blanc's personality. Unlike Brando or Hercules, after a day of battle, Mont Blanc was in despair. Just like all the bots sent to war, Mont Blanc had killed thousands of his own kind. All we really know in terms of his combat ability is that Mont Blanc was not only sturdily built, but was special enough to be able to tip the world's balance of power. Ultimately though, he meets his end off-screen as he is killed right at the start of the story and marks the first of Pluto's robot victims. Even though found dismembered and butchered, the area around his and Pluto's battle sites suggests a clash of titanic strength. The entire forest was lit ablaze and flattened in their battle, though that's sadly all we can speculate for Mont Blanc. Hercules, voiced by Richard Epcar. Hercules was an elite combat model and champion of the robot fighting world. Strong, proud, and amongst everything else, deadly. Hercules was the bot that amongst all of the 7 deadliest robots stated he was simply a weapon of mass destruction. Whether this being an example of his own life that he lived or a direct jab at what he was literally created for. With Hercules, we can tell that there was somewhat of a level of contentment for things and in general everything human. He directly said that Adam got the easy job while the rest of them were stuck on the battlefield massacring their own kind. And for the same reason, he shunned Epsilon, who chose not to participate during the war. However, one noteworthy thing is that unlike Gazek's Mont Blanc or Epsilon, Hercules switches between his day-to-day body and his combat body. And in terms of combat, Hercules is the perfect example of a trained soldier. Once pointed in a direction, he will seek to annihilate his enemy. On the battlefield, he was the one to list his kills for the day. Even when it came to fighting Pluto, he told Epsilon to leave and that he be in the way. This, as I said, further emboldened his archetype of the perfect soldier. In times of peace, Hercules still found combat, even if by only sport. He did what he was built for, but even he admitted that the battlefield could change you. And overall, his character and story, I feel, are a great representation of the ravages of war and PTSD. Though even revered as a god of battle and with significantly upped combat potential, he was still taken down by Pluto. However, even in the end, we have to examine Hercules' death. In a direct way of foreshadowing, Hercules met the same fate as the elite airborne combat model he shared the battlefield with. The same way that this robot washed its hands over and over again, unable to wash the blood nor the guilt away, because robots never forget. Hercules blamed himself for not only Brando's death, but the continued amount of deaths from Pluto. This is why he would have sent away Epsilon. This is why he would have wanted to fight one-on-one, because in the end, he believed that he was simply a weapon to be pointed in a direction. Brando, voiced by Adrian Pastar. Similar to Hercules, Brando is a combat model robot, meaning he switches between his day and combat body. Similar to Hercules, Brando took up the combat sports as his purpose after the war. Unlike Hercules, however, Brando is one of the few superbots whom after the war created a family, adopting robot children and using his wealth made from being the European fighting champion to, by the contrary, make a humble and wholesome home for his wife and kids, which is why when it came time to confront Pluto, Brando led it outside of the city, far from his family or civilization. In this way, I think Brando, through attempting human mannerisms like creating a family or even eating dinner, the simple dinner time, had discovered something as a robot that Hercules had not: empathy, love, and the need to protect and build and not destroy. North number 2, voiced by Patrick Seitz. North number 2 was, as I saw it, an advanced combat model. While like Hercules and Brando or even Gazek, he possessed a human voice and mouth to speak, North's entire body was, as his current client put it, a machine built for war and death. And who wouldn't think so with multiple arms, some bladed, some with weapon attachments, and rocket thrusters? It's no wonder North stated he had a confirmed kill number in the tens of thousands from the war, similar to all the other robots of mass destruction, by the way. North's story is, however, not too much like the other combat bots. North was a kindred soul. His client constantly berated him, belittled him, and overall disrespected North. North, through his own abilities, had started to teach himself the piano, despite his client's insistence that machines could not make real music, that there was no heart, no soul. Which, by the way, is something expressed to electronic music and electronic musicians in general. But as North showed, it is about creating that soul, that sense of purpose to learn and grow. North and his client continued to form a bond through North's curiosity in music, a bond so deep that North had no problem flying to Bohemia, where his client was born, in order to research things to help him complete a song or a melody that the old man hummed in his sleep. Even a crotchety old blind man could see the humanity within North number 2, an artificial intelligence so advanced and analytical that it is capable of expressing and experiencing emotions, which is one of the reasons overall I believe that the 7 robots were classified as weapons of mass destruction, their ability to learn and change and even form philosophies. However, North met his end after heroically flying out to confront Pluto, and this led to one of the saddest scenes in 2023, as his creator, who was blind, could only listen and feel North's last message.
I hear him singing.
Next is Epsilon, voiced by Keith Silverstein, the only one of the 7 robots to not participate in the 39th Central Asian War on the grounds of being a conscientious objector. Instead, Epsilon opened an orphanage for the children whose parents were lost, and the best way to describe him is a pacifist. Even in the fight against Pluto, Epsilon was never outright targeting Pluto as an enemy, which is wild because Epsilon was likely the strongest of the robots. Epsilon possessed the ability to control photons. A photon is a tiny particle that comprises waves of electromagnetic radiation. Essentially, photons are just electric fields traveling through space. Epsilon has shown direct manipulations of said photon energy. This extends to directed beams of energy or unleashing massive nuclear-like explosions, though per his role as a pacifist, Epsilon is mainly depicted using his energy to create barriers of energy for defense. His photons also allow him flight, though his powers are directly affected by the light of the sun, as he absorbs energy from it, making Epsilon significantly less powerful in the rain or night. This weakness, amongst others, is why Epsilon lost in his final battle against Pluto. Epsilon's pacifistic and protective nature left his attention divided from defeating Pluto. Additionally, another robot of mass destruction created the clouds blocking out the sky, weakening his photon abilities further. And overall, Epsilon never fought with his full power the entire series. His very nature was to seek peace, and even in the end did not see Pluto as his enemy, but as a tortured soul in need of redemption. Gazek, voiced by Jason Van Brake. While Gazek looks like a very fit middle-aged man, complete with slightly worn face and thinning blonde hair, he is likely created like this to be able to better blend in with his co-workers and to make humans more comfortable in his presence, as Gazek is fact model HRS-0288, a top-of-the-line detective robot. He was created by Dr. Hoffman of Germany 11 years ago using a special alloy Hoffman invented called zirconium. Gazek's AI is also probably one of the most advanced next to Adam's. He is able to pick up more nuances than most robots, let alone humans, giving him a greater capacity to learn than almost any robot. This intelligence and capability to act as a weapon of mass destruction makes Gazek once again one of the 7 greatest robots in the world. Gazek and other robots have advanced enough AI to, when combined with life experience, approach human emotion very closely. Like all of the most advanced robots we've talked about, with the exception of Epsilon, that served in the 39th Central Asian War, Gazek, on account of his history with the police, served with the security forces, which meant he spent most of his time securing urban areas. Gazek's zirconium body renders him nearly indestructible, requiring the equivalent of an anti-tank weapon to damage him. The shell also renders him immune to heat and electromagnetic-based attacks. In addition to his body, Gazek possesses several weapons he can produce from his hands. A non-lethal gun that fires sleeping gas that incapacitates organic targets, and a compact cannon that fires zirconium shells. The compact cannon is literally a portable war crime. Gazek can only even fire this weapon with the clearance of the higher-ups from Europol. Despite his weaponry already being absurd, Gazek's incredible deductive ability is what makes him valuable to Europol. Gazek can break down a critical situation, it seems, instantly, from analyzing a suspect's breathing, current state of being, or vital signs, to being able to pick up on the weight and type of shoes of a suspect, even the residue left behind on objects and minute details at an active crime scene. Now, Gazek was vital in picking up the trail of Pluto, and even cornered and confronted it. We see that, in a short exchange, Gazek's frame allows him to shrug off Pluto's electromagnetic attacks and even negates the effect of the enhanced EM waves. This resistance to Pluto made Gazek one of the most dangerous robots to stop the villain's plot, which is why to take out Gazek, they preyed on not his robot weakness, but his human-like feelings and emotions. Adam, voiced by Laura Stahl. Adam is an incredibly unique case amongst all the robots, and he is the central linking point to the final resolution of the show. Although he has a childlike appearance and mannerisms, he's arguably the most advanced and powerful robot in the world, able to show emotions and experience things that others can't while packing the firepower to defeat nearly any other bot. His AI is so in-depth that he outdoes an entire police squad in investigating the details of a crime scene. His very first scene demonstrates how advanced his artificial intelligence is. He acts exactly like a human child, not simulating the behavior of a child, but being like an actual child by expressing childlike joy. Adam, although was created by Dr. Tenma, the man behind the technology that creates the greatest robot brains. And though I'm not sure which took place first, his participation in the Central Asian War, or him being abandoned and sold off by his prospective father, Dr. Tenma. The very reason Dr. Tenma sold Adam is because he is the spitting image of Tenma's son, Tobio, but he is not Tobio. Incapable of replicating the nuances of the late boy and only serving to fuel his grief and frustration, Tenma opted to get rid of Adam. Adam even states that he was sold to a circus, though I wonder if this was a metaphor or a reference to the original Astro Boy. Now, what makes Adam the central conjoining point in the story is that after Adam is left in a comatose state, Tenma uploads memories involving suffering into him to force Adam to wake up. In my opinion, all of the negative events that had happened to the other bots is what was given to Adam. The memories have Adam initially take revenge on Pluto, but he realizes from Gazek's memories that hatred begets more hatred and decides to give Pluto a second chance as an attempt to end the cycle of hatred. Shout out Naruto. Urasawa's interpretation of Adam going on a traumatic journey gives audiences a character that holds onto the ideals of the prospective Astro Boy, while also grappling with more complex feelings like death, abandonment, and also betrayal. Pluto, voiced by Fred Taskor, and Sahad, voiced by Sean Rahani. Named after Pluto, the Greek god Hades' Roman counterpart, and as the main threat of the series and the manga and anime's namesake, Pluto was a robot serial killer targeting the 7 strongest robots in the world, as well as the humans who were on the Bora survey group, a group of inspectors who claimed Persia was massacring robots, most of which were in fact the creators of the 7 superbots. The only thing ever left behind were the remnants of battle. Always pairs of horns fashioned for whatever the occasion was somehow. And for most of his appearances, Pluto appears less a robot, but more a demonic force of nature. It is eventually revealed that his real name is Sahad, a gentle robot who originally only wanted to fill his homeland of Persia with flowers. Created to control rain and wind, Pluto was repurposed, so to speak, after losing everything in the 39th Central Asian War. Dr. Abdullah, his father and creator, quotation marks, was consumed by hatred and used Sahad as an instrument of vengeance. He created Pluto, the body, and inserted his son Sahad's AI into it, tasked it with killing the Bora survey group and the 7 strongest robots. Sahad was a gentle and loving robot, arguably, I'd say, as emotionally complex as Adam, and it is because of that that Dr. Abullah's hatred changes Pluto, the same way the intense emotions changed Adam. The parallels between Pluto and each of the robots he slaughtered tie directly into his character. The central thing to remember about all of these robots is that though they were created with some of the most advanced technology on the planet, they were still used in active warfare. Even the ones with less combat-heavy roles like Gazek still witnessed the darkest parts of war, from Hercules' own words, the hatred of humanity. And this hatred is exactly what created Pluto as we know him. Bora, Goji, or Dr. Abdullah. Dr. Abula was the head of the science ministry in Persia during the 39th Central Asian War. Dr. Abula and his family were killed in a bombing. A copy of his mind was loaded into a robot that he commissioned Dr. Tenma to create for him, yet did not immediately activate due to deliberating the numerous personas in its CPU. The robot, Goji, activates from somewhat absorbing Abdullah's memories and is consequently driven insane, and automatically thinking he is the real Dr. Abula. This is why the series states several times in Dr. Tenma's own words that the perfect robot will be capable of everything: killing, crying, loving, and lying. The robot known as Goji, but also the other personality of the revived Dr. Abula, goes on to pervert his son Sahad, a gentle robot who only wants to fill, once again, his homeland with flowers and live peacefully, and he turns this robot into a horrible weapon for his own vengeance, all because of his overwhelming hatred. Now with the Goji Abdullah part resolved, let's figure out what or who Bora was. According to Adam, everything began with Darius XIV, the previous ruler of the Kingdom of Persia. It was Darius' plan to vitalize the country's vast deserts. Originally, Bora was not meant to be, as the other robots weren't, weapons of mass destruction. However, when the initial prototypes didn't work, Abula abandoned the failed experiments, leaving piles of robot bodies in the cellar. This sparked the 39th Asian conflict and plunged that entire world into war. Now here's where things get a little wild and complex and unexpected, so if you're still around tuning into this video, leave a like, leave a subscribe, why not? It's the holidays. But carrying on. Now, Bora is eventually destroyed in a last-ditch gambit by Pluto to atone for his sins, but I feel like I've said enough. If you guys want to know more, and if you watched this far, once again, thank you. You're awesome. You're the coolest people I know. The Pluto series leaves a lot to be uncovered, and I hope my brief explanation into the lives and roles of the most powerful robots help make the ending a little more understandable, though you may walk away from it the same way I am, confused.